Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. So, the topic of our seminar today is Bridging Worlds Through Words, a case study on migrated children, metalinguistic awareness, and identity with Zaira Mairaj, obviously. Thank you so much, Zaira, for joining us here today. I can understand, that the timings are very different, but you have been able to manage that. So, thank you so much for joining us today.
No problem.
So, a little bit introduction about our speaker today, Zaira Mairaj. She is a dedicated scholar and an educator with strong academic foundation in English and American studies. She holds a Master of Arts degree from Alban Adria University, Klagenfurt, Austria, where her research focused on social linguistic dimensions of multilingualism among migrated children. Her work reflects on ongoing commitment to interdisciplinary inquiry and cultural engagement and builds on her previous work in her Masters in English from Namal Islamabad. Together, these academic experiences bridge Western and South Asian scholarly perspectives. Her academic training spans a wide array of disciplines, including applied linguistics, media ethics, gender and cultural studies, and organizational communication. Her interdisciplinary grounding enables her to teach a broad range of literary and linguistic subjects with critical depth and contemporary relevance. Furthermore, she strives to deliver research-informed instructions that nurtures critical thinking and global awareness. Her goal is to mentor
कौन
students in
सी
academic writing and thesis development
नहीं
and to
सोशल मीडिया नहीं है ये
interdisciplinary research,
हाँ
exploring language context,
A4 का ही तो
identity, and cross-cultural communication. So thank you so much, Zaira, for joining today. Thank you, audience, for joining us here today. So let's just start the session. Over to you, Zaira.
Yes, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share my knowledge, to contribute in any capacity. My name is Zaira Mairaj, and I'm basically from Pakistan. I did my bachelor's from Faisalabad, and then I mm, did my master's in linguistics and literature from National University of Modern Languages, Islamabad. After a few years, we migrated to Austria. There, I got an opportunity to do masters in American and English studies, which is actually equivalent to Pakistani MPhil. And I had this opportunity to have a modern and applied linguistics masters. So, yeah, my topic today is basically bridging worlds through words, a case study on migrated children's metalinguistic awareness and identity. This topic is very close to me because while migrating from one land to another land, I realized that it's a right time to write something about my experience. So, while doing my master's in American and English Studies from Alpanadra University, Klagenfurt, they gave us this freedom to do research on our own way. So that was a huge, I think that was a huge thing for us. And now I think I should, if my screen has been already shared to you, you can see, I
ये
should
पूरा आ
start
गया
my, sorry? Okay. So I have tried to make my session or presentation today in a very academic way. I don't know whether that is okay or not, but I try to make it more academically correct. So I try to explain my research in a way where I will explain about my research design. I'll tell you about my identification of research problem. I'll explain about visualizing my data. I will explain how did I think of that research question and what was the research process in my flowchart, what was research tools I used in my research. Then, of course, no research is possible until unless you use a theoretical framework. And whatever subjects we were studying at that time, like multilingualism, bilingualism, themes and applied linguistics, I tried to put all that sort of educational scenario in my thesis in a different way, of course. And then I tried to collect my data, which was more about case study. And that's the most unique thing in my thesis, where, when you are looking for writing a research process or writing a thesis, you have to look for certain things that are applicable to your research and that can be used for future things. So I analyzed my data, then I tried to make it more sure that whatever I suggested or whatever I thought of a thesis question, I should write in a proper way. Then, of course, I'll share my bibliography, which is very important for students who are doing research these days, and what sort of educational parameters they should use in their research. For me, I think the most important thing was to find a research gap. And in my case, multilingualism is not a very unique topic. Wherever you see migrational scenarios, you see multilingualism. And whenever there are languages more than two, you speak more than two languages, multilingualism phenomena is being used in that. So in my case, I tried to think of a unique thing. I tried to think of a modern thing. I thought two languages, three languages in Pakistani scenario are very much common. We usually speak Punjabi and Urdu and English also in one single setting or one single context. But when I saw that in my case, my children who were not so big, so elder, they were quite young at that age, and they tried to flip languages very quickly. And so I found this kind of combination of Urdu, English, and German, that was very unique in my case. So I tried to fill that research gap with combination of languages in my data. Then I realized that your research should be reality based. That should not be, that should not be a work of somebody else. So I thought of a case study method. I thought of focus research method and multiple other methods which I used in my research. But the major thing was case study, which I have made today's more agenda also, that we will discuss about how case study method is very much important. At the same time, it's easy to apply in research also, because you don't have that fear of plagiarism. You don't have you. This is a unique data. You have your own kids. You're recording them. You are analyzing them, and at the same time, it's a very fun-based thing. In this case, I thought I had that research flexibility. I was not restricted by certain settings. I was not restricting by, I didn't need any preset environment. I used to record my kids whenever I had time, like they were dining out or they were sitting with us, they were talking to us, and I started recording them in a free time. And that was a research flexibility for me. And of course, if you see it in a modern scenario or in a more scientific scenario, then research flexibility comes with your tempora, with your time zone, where you are doing research, where you are using that parameters. So that is basically research flexibility. But in my case, it was like I was allowed to use their settings in my own convenience. Then I had to implement the contemporary literature. Whatever we were being studied during my master's, I tried to implement all that kind of literature. Of course, when I did my master's in applied linguistics, that was a time when that was pre-pandemic time. But at the time, we had that luxury of using our own creativity. So modern literature was quite different. What I studied in University of Modern Languages, in my National University of Modern Languages, when I was doing my master's in literature and linguistics, I found it huge different from that, because we applied all the research or all the data which was after 2000. So I tried to implement that literature in my research as well, because it's very important to make your research modern, and it should not be outdated in another way. And applied linguistics, of course, that was my main major in my studies. I was doing applied linguistics, and where you can have that freedom of doing research of your own choice. And of course, I did some research, educational research courses where I had that knowledge of doing that cutting edge research thing, where all the research was well equipped, where I was allowed to do research in a flexible and at the same time in a most equipped way. For example, I did my thesis in latex. I wrote my thesis in latex, and at that time, AI was not so much common. So latex was the modern thing. And it was at the same time very convenient for us to do the research in latex, and all the modern techniques we used and we implemented while doing the recordings and code switching and code mixing. I'll explain you in my further slides as well. So basically, interdisciplinary field is a medieval way into disciplines when you are doing, for example, sociology and linguistics, and sociolinguistic is an interdisciplinary field. And my master's courses were more about all the interdisciplinary fields. For example, we studied about psycholinguistics, we studied about sociolinguistics, where we had that opportunity to do research with society and languages, and we had to write seminar papers. And when I was doing my master's at that time, I tried to implement all the things which I had in my mind, because that was a I would say that was not a classical term of masters. In that sort of masters, we had that creative liberty. So in interdisciplinary field, I used my bilingualism and multilingualism in one way, because both are diversified terms. You can have dimensional differences when you are using bilingualism and multilingualism. It's not just a small topic, it's a very complex topics when you go into detail. So I think this was the whole pattern when I started my research, and this should be a pattern when you are starting your research in thesis writing, or whenever you are doing your masters, and whenever you are serious to do some futuristic thinking in your mind. For example, if you have that sort of thoughts that you have to do a master's which should emphasize on practical outcomes, which should emphasize that how will I use it in my practical life when I'll be free from this master's. So that was very much important. Without writing a thesis, I don't think that you have that sort of knowledge, and you don't have that sort of freedom as well to write things the way you want to write. So data visualization was also a part of writing thesis. And while writing my thesis, the aim of research was to just to record my kids. And it just started when I was offered a course, when I was doing a course in multilingualism. And multilingualism was course in themes and applied linguistics in my master's. And then I had this idea of research, that I can do research on multilingualism, because I have gone through from migration and migrational consequences, and I have gone through from all the things which a migrated person realizes when he is moving from one region to another region. It's not just that you are leaving a land behind, it's like you are leaving your culture, your thoughts, your memories, and the most important thing, many indigenous languages also, because in Pakistan we used to speak multiple languages at one home settings. But when I came to Austria, I realized that language scenario was quite different. It is basically place where I'm living right now is Graz. It's second biggest city of Austria, and here only German language is dominant in academic settings and in usual day-to-day life. So I realized that you cannot survive if you don't learn German. Then the biggest fear was to survive, to try to transfer the same knowledge of language to my kids without even realizing them that they are learning something different or new. And we didn't try to make a big effort in that, and because we are culturally and we are basically attached to our land so closely that we must thanks to this WhatsApp and this all modern techniques which made our life more easier. Because while doing Skype chat or WhatsApp chatting or WhatsApp conversation with their grandparents, they were somehow attached to their land and culture and everything. But everything we were doing was sort of artificial thinking. I mean, it was not like they were not having a natural setting, they were not having a natural environment. So I wanted to make sure that whatever I'm thinking, that speaking 2 to 3 languages at one time can have any sort of impact. That was my first thought when I started my research. And of course, motivation of research is, excuse me, I think I should have some water. Yes. Motivation of research was, of course, to make sure that whatever multilingual utterances they are speaking at one time should make a logical difference. Because to say something is very easy, but when you are writing in a thesis or when you are writing academically, it's very important that that should back up with a theoretical framework. So what I was thinking, I was not sure that whether it has any sort of evidence in literature or in linguistics, or is there any example like that. So I wanted to see whether my instinct was right or not, because though it is very common phenomena that children are speaking 2 to 3 languages, but I try to attach this phenomena with identity. I try to attach that phenomena of languages with identity, and identity again is a very different and diversified term. If you know about linguistics and languages, then you must be knowing about identity and all the post-culturalist theories and all the data which has been shared already. So that was my motivation to make a connection between identity, language, and migration. And then I had to look for settings, and I had to make sure that all the settings should natural. And this was a field setting exploratory research in academic way. Like when you see in books, then you come to know that what sort of setting you are using in your research that is that fits into this specific research method. And then, of course, library research was more accessible, and you have to use library research in making sure that whatever research you are doing, that should make a difference. And collection of data was about 3 to 6 audio videotapes, and to analyze them, that was another scenario when I tried to analyze them, and I tried to have a uh, technical framework to learn about how to do this transcriptions and how to do this video filming and everything. Because I'm talking about 2017 and 18, and because at that time this was not very much common that you start filming everywhere, and now it is quite common. But at that time it was not so much easy for us to film them, because here where I'm living, it is not easy to have video of somebody whom you don't know. There is a strict sort of data security, and they call it datenschutz. So we have to make sure that nobody without their permission should be allowed in our videos. Then I try to analyze and interpret data according to linguistic measurements, and that should fit into my research was major concern for me. So in the other way, my thesis question was, I wrote multiple thesis questions at that time when I started my research, but the major ones were about that to ascertain the construction of identities in children. And why I took children in my research, because I wanted to take natural thought processes. Because whenever you want to take a senior person, or whenever you are taking a subject as a person who knows that he is being recorded, he will never give you a natural utterance. He will never give you a causal incident. He will give you what he is thinking that he is being recording, and it will be artificial or it will be made up thing. And for me, it was very good idea to take children in my research, because I had the results which I actually thinking to have. And the second research question was the role of third language in multilingualism, because see, I had to make it a little bit different from other genres because when you are doing a research, it's very different for you, or it's very difficult for you to make a slight line and you have to fit into that line, because you get diverted very easily, and to be in that line was a big concern for me, and it was a big fear as well. So I made sure that I tried to interceive, or I tried to conceive this thing, that language occurrence is a very common thing when they are speaking three languages or four languages in this scenario. So then I tried to make this my research question as well, and I tried to research on language occurrence and language mention and intrasentential and intersentential sentences. I don't know whether this much research has been discussed in your course or not, but in my applied linguistics masters, when I was doing, this was a very common phenomena to take your studies to a level where you can make it reality-based research, or when you can make it an implemented thing. For example, I remember I did a course on language and age. It was a themes in applied linguistics, language and age, and we had to make sure that we have to make a seminar paper out of it. And I thought of multiple things at that time, but when I saw the whole trajectory of that research, I saw that okay, what they were doing, they were trying to make films, they were trying to make Netflix to their research data, and they were trying to take things out of that. They were trying to take like they were transcribing the dialogues, they were taking the scenes out of that movies. So I had to take a film in that context. And in language and age, I took an Indian film, Piku. And it was so normal, and at the same time it was really amazing for me, because whatever results I was taking out of that movie, I had this opportunity, because language and age was more concerned about when you are getting older, or when you are having any sort of age, then you should not age shame that person, or you should not make that person in an way. The basic idea of that research was to use utterances according to specific age. So I had this sort of knowledge in my mind, and when I was doing this present research, which I'm sharing right now, I was very much flexible in doing research in multilingualism, where I was using case studies, I was using observational research, I was also taking some group observations in my data, because one sort of methodology is not enough when you're doing research. You have to take multiple research data, so that you can make a comparison at the last moment, and then you have to make some results out of that. So in this case, it was the research question, which these were the research questions which I made in my research, and this was the process which I followed when I was reviewing my thesis. This was multilingualism and identity, and how it was related to my research. So this was the whole literature thing. And then I designed the research as per my methodology of research, which was collection of data in terms of audio video tapes. And then I interpreted that data. I tried to test the hypothesis, and so it was a kind of academic and formal way of doing a research. And when you're doing research, you need some approaches to back it up. And I did not know much about communication and all the approaches of conversation. I mean, we all know, we all realize when you do masters in English, then conversation, the topic of conversation is not a very new topic. It's not a very unfamiliar topic. It's a familiar topic for all of you. But I don't know whether the communication accommodation theory or communication adaptation theory, or the other theories which are which are being used in this research, whether you have heard it or not. But I try to make all those theories of communication in this one a single setting. I luckily had in my theoretical framework, I had this communication accommodation theory, which were written by Tachful and Henry. And in that theory, I came to know about a convergence and divergence idea. And in convergence and divergence ideas were very much important when you start doing any research on case study method, because in case study method, every communicator is not interacted, is not very much he is not in he doesn't feel comfortable in conversation. So let's say if he is not comfortable in a conversation, we can say him, so we can say him that he's not interested, or he just doesn't want to respond. So these were the glimpses which I had in doing case studies on my own children. My daughter was 8 years old when I started recording her, and my son was, I think, 4 years old. And since I recorded them for 3 years, and my daughter got 11, and my son got 7, 3 years research was a longitudinal research data, which I implemented in this. And my son was not very much good in conversations. Whenever there was a Urdu language, he tried to take himself away from the conversation. So again, I had to look for my theoretical theoretical framework to see what sort of attitude it is. And that was divergence, when a communicator is not interested to take part in that communication. So that was something which I found in communication accommodation theory and social identification theory. And there are four theories which I applied in this thesis to make my theoretical framework more strong and more sound. And you start when you start recording children, or when you start recording in natural settings, you don't know what would be their response. For example, if the children are sitting together, they will speak a language which is easy for them to speak. So that was a very interesting thing for us to witness, that whenever my son and my daughter used to be alone, they used to speak English to each other. But English was not a language which has been taught here. It was not a predominant language in Austria. So I realized that English language was a language which they learned somehow as a migrational consequence, because they just saw their parents to speak English so much. Whenever we used to integrate in society, or we used to speak somewhere, we had to use this English language because we didn't know German for a longer time. To be honest, I don't know it yet. I just know a B1 level of German. But at that time, I was very new and I had to speak only English language. So they learned it automatically, passively. And we did not teach them a proper Oxford English things, but we were glad that they were speaking English so fluently, because English was a consequential language for them. But my daughter learned German so quickly. So this was interesting factor in research also, that children learn languages more quickly because they have to survive in another way. We also had to survive here, but we did not have this fear of making friends or not making friends. We were okay with it. We were very much comfortable with our lives. But children had to make friends. They had to survive in this society. So eventually they had to learn their languages of German so quickly as compared to their parents. And then I realized that they become the role of they started playing a role of facilitator. And this was another interesting factor for us. Whenever we used to go somewhere, they tried to teach us that, for example, in a mall or in a shopping store, there were multiple ingredients we didn't want to take, and then my daughter used to interpret that, and then she used to tell me, though Googling was not so much important and so much frequently used at that time. But later on, of course, it played a major role. We started using all these things more quickly in our lifestyle. But then I also wrote about migrated children playing a role of facilitator, or migrated children playing a role of helpers when you are in a foreign land. So this whole scenario made this thesis more interesting and a unique research for me, because you are utilizing a number of languages on account of numerous varied social, cultural, and of course that was their cognitive development also, because they were thinking multiple languages at one time. So it was a sort of unique phenomena for us. So for us means that, of course, my husband helped me out in making the data more profound. It was not possible if I could do it alone. He used to record it, I used to analyze it. So it was a mutual effort. And while doing that research, I realized that whatever factors I am thinking in my mind should back up with a theoretical framework. So then I found these writers who wrote about all these things, about multilingualism, and they have they already have written the things which were very much suitable for my research. And it was all search, and you were just trying to pen down all those things which you come across and which you see in your library. So I found a paper, I found a book of research papers, and that was about a migrational topic, and at the same time migration and multilingualism. So I try to implement all those things in my theories, which, like Cecilia said, that utilizing a number of languages on account of numerous varied social, cultural, and economic needs. Multilingual speaker may live in a multilingual community or overlapping bilingual communities, or be in contact with several monolingual communities. And then again, a paper of multilingualism and identity I read about, that was in 2002. Their proficiency in each of their languages is likely to differ or may fluctuate over time. This was very natural thing, because when I recorded them, if I see those recordings right now, things have been changed. And if I would have a chance to record them again, okay, then there will be no chance of having the same result, because now they have grown bigger, and now their fluency towards one language is more than the other one. Or maybe they are not ready to change or switch so quickly as they were when they were children. So that age group was very much important for me. Their languages may have different roles and functions. They may use them separately or code switch. And Kemp in 2009 said that multilingual, whether you are a multilingual, whether you know 3 or 7 languages, because of course, if you know 2 languages, then you are a bilingual person. So, in my thesis, the acquisitional settings on multilingualism were about my own scenario. That was migration, which was a major jump in my major, transition in my life. That was global migration and linguistic diversity, and this was very much significant in this research, that when you migrate from one place to another, then you carry enough knowledge, but you cannot carry all the cultural and significant things of your past memories and everything. So you have to live with what you have in that suitcase. And this was quite difficult for us to make an artificial environment of Muslim Pakistani family in Austria, where you have to know that there are no, that there are no there are no chance of having azan sound, or there were no chances of having any sort of our Urdu logans or anything. So we had to artificially create that environment. And that was also interesting for us, because in migrational scenario, you have to do it. And there is no choice. If you want your children should be attached to your roots, then it's very much important to provide that sort of environment, to give them the glimpse of your culture, your background, and your roots. And so that was basically my idea that I should make them ready to accept all the linguistic diversities fluently and without any sort of interruption or disturbance. In this research, the major actors or characters were my children, multilingual children, and they both played a vital role in this research. And the major focus in this research was on metalinguistic awareness and its implications on migrated children. Metalinguistic awareness is a major background theme, and at the same time, it's a major crux of this whole research. What is metalinguistic awareness? Metalinguistic awareness is basically when you are speaking 2 to 3 languages simultaneously and you are aware of any sort of mistake or flaw or inefficiency during your language. This is called metalinguistic awareness. For example, if a person who is speaking English, he will never make a mistake like I was ran, because he knows that this is not a right sentence. So speaking languages was not a problem. Speaking languages in a proper way, where you know that structure, grammar, tone, everything is according to the host language or whatever language is being spoken here, that makes a difference. And it was basically again again I recorded children and I implemented and I tried to take this thing out, that whatever languages they are speaking, they were speaking rightly. They were not making different, like they were not code switching, and code mixing is another thing, but they were not making any sort of interruption in those languages. So this was major topic of this research, that metalinguistic awareness and its implications on migrated children, how it affect the whole environment, how it affect the whole tone and situation of a child when he's speaking Urdu. Then there is a tone of cultural thing on their face, and when they are speaking Deutsch or Deutsch we say in German. So when they are speaking Deutsch, that is another phase. When they are doing something according to their school, or they are talking to each other, because now they both are grown ups and they speak more Deutsch because they don't want to tell everything to their parents. So Deutsch is a hidden language for them, though we all know. And of course, when you are living in a migrational scenario, more languages are being offered to them. So right now, they're juggling with Spanish and French also. So 4 to 5 languages at home scenario are being spoken, and then all languages should be spoken in a proper way. Is called basically metalinguistic awareness. When you have this sort of instinct that whatever language you are speaking, that should be correctly articulated, that should not have any sort of flaw. So migration was a key element. It was a causal element. It was a consequential element. Whenever I project my research somewhere, or whenever I have a chance to discuss about my research, then if I would not have been migrated from one land, I would not have gone through all the journey things during that transition. I would not have made these things so obvious that, okay, this happens. Because in books or in papers, wherever you read about those things, if your personal experience has any sort of relationship with what books have written, then it becomes more interesting factor in your research, that whatever you are seeing or whatever you are witnessing as a person, you can relate to that. So in this case, migration was a key element. And since my thesis was also like multilingualism and its impact on migrated children, this was a key line of my thesis. This was a basic title of this thesis. And metalinguistic awareness was a concept in the whole research, because children were speaking not only the languages, they were actually aware what they are speaking. So, and it was not possible for them that they could speak Urdu with a German person or English with an Urdu person. So they were very much aware of the fact that where and in what settings they have to use the language. So a language is very much important in this case. A language as a marker for repertoire of social identities. That's what I wrote in my thesis. It was a chapter in my thesis that I believed, and of course, I had some reasons to believe that. I did some research on this, that whenever you are mixing some codes or whenever you are switching codes, it's always about a communication. See, communication is very much important when you take into a humanistic approach. No communication is possible if you know, if you don't know about the words, the science of words, and if you don't know about how these all words come together to form a complete narrative. And communication and language and all the word science, because when you are doing your master's in literature and linguistics, you come to know about all the phonetics and phonology and basics of words, and more of a subject is basically to formation of communication, or what should I say, combination of different conversations. What is co-communicator? What is the role of a facilitator in that? So language plays an integral role in identities, in making identities. Here was a link, here was a thing which bothered me, that identities itself is a huge topic to discuss. Identities, when you go into depth of identities, then there are social identities, some religious identities, ascribed identities, chosen identities, and there are multiple different facets of identities. So here I had a dialogue with my professor also. He said that how will you implement your social identities in this case? And then I said that it's possible because I have seen through a linguistic analysis or through linguistic parameters that you become that person what you are saying. So communication makes your identity to some extent. You cannot change your religious identity or ascribed identity. Of course, I cannot change a background or a place from where I belong to. That will always be my identity. Being a Pakistani Muslim girl, that is an ascribed identity. That is an identity which is stuck to me. But there are multiple other societal identities which are which I think shift from one place to another place with the transition of language. For example, my daughter Mahnur, who is a part of this conversation or this whole thesis, she is a German Austrian. You can say that she is an Austrian Matura girl. So, what is that identity stands for? What does that stand for? I think if you all know that a Matura is a standard where they are able to complete their A levels here. So nobody says if she is in school, then people will say that she is an Austrian Matura girl. So that is her school identity, where she carries wherever she goes. And since she speaks a language which is which in which she is proficient enough, so she says herself as an Austrian girl because she has more of that language. But again, it it doesn't it is not similar to me. It's different to me. So these are basic subjects which I try to highlight in this thesis, that language, and on the basis of language, you can say that social identities are formed and constructed, at the same time contested and negotiated. So in that case, I try to analyze the conversations of subject Manur and Jasem, and then I realized that there was code switching and other means of linguistics. For example, there was co-communicator, and there was sometime a conversation which has three or more languages. Sometimes there was a process of alternating between two languages and language varieties in a single conversation. There was a linguistic feature of language that variety of languages are kept intact. For example, on one table, there is an audio which I will share in another session if I will get an opportunity to. There was an audio and video where they are sitting in school setting and they are talking to their teacher, and Manur is talking to a teacher in German language, but at the same time she is telling something to her brother in English language. So there was one conversation, but that was a combination of three languages: English, German, and Urdu. She was talking to her father by saying that आप चले मैं आती हूँ. So this whole thing made another facet of linguistics, which I took as intrasentential switching and intersentential switching and tag switching. And I will explain this intersentential switching in a way where you speak 2 to 3 words of other languages in one sentence. For example, whenever there is a conversation of food, they try to they try to make utterances like I love biryani or ik liebe biryani. So biryani has no other word for them. So ik liebe biryani means I love biryani. So es ist hässlich im English oder im German sprechen. So it is a combination of two languages where I use tag words in English. And when you are talking in flow in one language and suddenly you say, German में ऐसा नहीं होता. So German is a tag which you are using in Urdu. So these were very interesting occurrences, which I realized that if you start doing all the academic data in your hand, and if you get a chance to see linguistic literature also, whatever has been written for papers and journals, you know the details of linguistic fluencies and all the speech fluencies in your routine life. So metalinguistic awareness, again, when I mentioned in my thesis, was an ability to reflect and manipulate language. And it, Jane Leon explained it as talking about talking. And then multilingualism and language mixing are part of metalinguistic awareness. And of course, code switching and code mixing cannot be denied when you're talking about multilingual scenarios or multilingual languages. Simultaneous activation of multiple languages in communication, which I already explained in my just a couple of minutes ago, that when you are speaking multiple languages and you are saying different words from a specific culture or a specific norm or a religious background, then that is simultaneous activation of multiple languages in communication. For example, if you say that हमारे पाकिस्तान में जितने भी लोग हैं वो सिर्फ और सिर्फ उर्दू ही बोलते हैं, तो ये एक सिंपल सेंटेंस है जो कि पूरा का पूरा आपने उर्दू में कहा. बट अगर आप ये कहते हैं कि in Deutsch es ist nicht möglich zu sprechen im Pakistani English. So ये एक और लाइन है जो कि आप Deutsch में बोल रहे हैं, but again it has some Pakistani words, and you come to know about small instances that okay, they have other tags of language. So it was again connected with my concept of identity, which was different behavior, different attitude. Again, identity is a very diversified topic. When you research for identity, you come to know about social identities and social roles, which are shaped by the groups and communities we belong to. And then people's linguistic actions can vary as per expectations of the group they belong to. And sometimes if you go to a psychoanalytic view of identity, that's your mental state. Or when you go, I mean, identity, again, it's a conceptual thing. Everybody has its own definition of identity. And again, there are some social identities which cannot be negotiated, but at the same time, there are some identities which you can contest into different scenarios. So then a person can take the agency or can take the liberty to take that. Here, I also explained about the word agency, which was an ability of individuals which helps them to act independently and to make their own free choices. To mix identity with linguistics or with language or again with the whole repertoire of words was not an easy thing, was not an easy task, especially if you have certain scenarios and if you have your reality-based research. But when you start doing research, the major or the basic changes when you see the same thing which you're thinking in your mind or which your instinct is saying can be found in a literary framework. So it's very interesting. Whatever you think to do in your research design, you just have a clear idea of that, and then you find the same examples in your literary framework. That's what I have believed, and that's what I have realized in my research also. So, and then I went to my data collection and my research process that was more about structured observation and that was more about case study method. Then when you start doing case study method, there are some limitations of that method too. You cannot usually when you do case study method, you have to tell your participant or your subject that you're being recorded. But basically, in my case, I took that liberty of parental thing. I did not tell them that they are being recorded because I wanted to have natural and immediate response. And I think the response was exactly the same I interpreted or I realized or I anticipated. So there were some advantages and limitations of case study method too, because then kids go for another way, like they start uh, making you unbearable and they start making the research so difficult at times. But in another way, a case study method is an expanded version of data collection. You have to make a limitation to that research. You have to narrow down that research to your context of research. Otherwise, it may get more expanded. So the more interesting task was to add code and classification of data. And that was something which I learned while doing this master's, because before that, when I did a master's from National University, I realized I did not write thesis in that master's. And I don't know whether now it is a normal norm or not, but at that time we had this flexibility of not writing a thesis. And so somehow I was not able to learn editing, coding, and all the things which I learned in thesis writing. Thesis writing is a journey which take you to the practical implication of your knowledge. I don't think that any knowledge can be left behind without doing a research on that. Practical implementation is very much important. Then, of course, nature and scope and object of particular data. This research was qualitative research, as you all have realized so far. Case study method is qualitative, but again, quantitative analysis is when numbers are involved. And quantitative I tried to analyze in quantitative way, but this research was basically qualitative. And the settings, names, ages, languages they spoke in their conversations, all have been mentioned in the thesis properly and in alphabetical order, so that there may not be any chance of confusion or problem for people who want to see that thesis or who want to consult that thesis. So there were technical sources used in data collection, and the most advanced form was LaTeX. I used, though software was very interesting to use, and I enjoyed writing thesis on LaTeX because, you know, when you are thinking and you're writing at the same time and you are doing a thing on research, then you don't have this problem of doing all the connotations and all the paper marginal things. These things make a writer offensive or boring. So in LaTeX or in any other, I think now this is an age of artificial intelligence. So writers don't need to worry about other things which are making their writing any hindrance or problematic. So they just have to write, and I think it's a good opportunity to use that software in my research. because it made the research more easier and flexible and fluent at the same time. So after doing all the collection process, I did analysis of research. That was a major task. Whatever you say, whatever you do in your research, it's very important that you have to make sure whatever has been said so far should should be taken out of your research, or your ending should be exactly the way you have started. Whatever thesis question you have rose, or you have mentioned in the beginning of your thesis, should be answered in the end of thesis. So my focus was on analysis more than recording the data, because analysis was more complicated thing for me. And there were some conversations in Manur's and Jasim both cases that were very difficult to analyze, because of course then there was not a proper articulation of words. My son was only 4 years old when I started to record him, so it was difficult for me to analyze the whole conversation. So it took time, but eventually I realized these were the results of the whole conversation, the whole data. There was one conversation, and in one conversation, it is possible to have two people and three languages. And it is not a very different phenomena. And language mention I highlighted in my thesis, which was like usually in data, my daughter says that Deutsch mein aisa nahi hota. So skilled or fluent code switching, which I think that you are switching your codes, and you are so much skilled in your language articulation, that should look like a normal thing, that should not look beyond that context. So it should be, the transition should be very much smoother. Then occurrence of Urdu language in the end of conversation is a common phenomena. For example, we are speaking Deutsch sometimes, and we say after some utterances, okay, acha. देखते हैं. So this is a very common phenomena of being a Pakistani person. You cannot take your all slangs and words out of your conversations. And I personally have taught these acha and okay and these words, which were like very much common in my conversation. I've taught these words to my friends who are in German community, because this is so much common in our conversation. So, and I think every conversation in every other language, they have these sort of slangs. In German, they have aso, and in English, of course, there are some words, but in German, they have aso and naya. So code mixing or code switching was the basic output of this research. Then convergence and divergence. When somebody wants to take part in conversation, or somebody doesn't want to take part in that conversation, that makes a big difference. So divergence is when somebody is not taking part in conversation and he is trying to outgroup of that conversation. And since I have already explained about convergence, that when somebody feels comfortable, or something is of his taste or of his instinct is being spoken out, he will take part in that. He will feel easy, or he will feel comfortable in talking. And this is all I realized in conversational analysis when I did. And then trilingual identities are again attached to, when I attached identities to certain languages, and there was unintentional and consequential interest-intentional language interaction. Then there was involving a lexical or grammatical items from different languages. For example, food items, for example, papdi chaat, or other things which have no translation in English language. So that was basically I realized in this conversation, or in this whole data set, that they were not being translated in Manur's videotapes. She said biryani as biryani, she said kalma as kalma, and azan as azan. And that is a very interesting analysis. If I will be having any chance of sharing that also, but not in today's session. It's already quite long. So metalinguistic awareness and metalinguistic awareness shapes both language and identity. That's what I concluded in my research. That was an answer to thesis when I was writing it. Since the whole topic was about metalinguistic awareness, so I tried to make this process as if it shapes both language and identity. And there was some theoretical data as well to back up this. And then migrated children navigate complex linguistic worlds daily. Again, it was a conclusion after my analysis that yes, migrated children do navigate complex linguistic worlds daily, and on daily basis they have like they go through from all the different identities while going to school, while being in school, coming from school, and again, whosoever. Because the place where I live is a very small city of Austria. It has more migrants now. In a couple of years, there have been more immigrants, and then there have been more languages being spoken here. If you see in Pakistani scenario also, there were like different cultures of Pakistan have been introduced here. So they get confused when they meet any Pakistani person, but he's not Punjabi or he's not Urdu speaking. If he's speaking Pashto or any other language, then again they ask questions regarding this. So this was a whole linguistic transition. Whatsoever incidents you see or new new things when you see, then you come across with all these new languages and the languages which you find normal, but for children these are new languages. They have never been to Pashto side of Pakistan, so they find it quite a different language. So it is a common phenomena for migrated children to navigate complex linguistic worlds daily. And the third was recognizing multilingualism as an essential part of education and policy. So since migration has been a common phenomena these days, I think in few last 1 decade, it has been very common for people to come across the globe, and they are moving from one place to another. And so migration and multilingualism has been a phenomena. But why did I mention it this recognizing multilingualism? Because when I came to Austria, then there was a restriction to use German only. But with the passage of time, since there were many other immigrants also, they introduced multiple things. They introduced a concept of translation. They introduced some new policies in their education. So my agenda was also to make it possible through my thesis that multilingualism should be made acceptable, or there should be more languages than German only. But still, it is difficult to survive with English only. You have to learn German if you want to survive in this city, in this country. This is the whole theoretical framework which I followed in my research and my session and whatever I did. And these were the papers. Some of these are very important books which I did in my research. And they are actually very helpful. I would appreciate if you will take a look on all these books if you have them, because they will help you in any other way. Whatever research you are doing, whatever agenda you are having right now, it's good if you have some sort of motivation to do it in more technical way, because you must have this sort of um, futuristic thing in your mind that whatever you are doing has to be implemented in any way that should be contributed in practical world. So that's all for me. I think I spoke a lot after quite long time. I spoke that much. I hope this little effort of mine may have contributed in any capacity. Thank you so very much for being patient, for being good listeners. Now, if you have any sort of question or any queries, I'm here. So let's see if we have some question and answers.
Thank you, Zara. Thank you so much for
Hello.
the extensive and this insightful session that you have given. I'm sure that we have learned a lot about
Hello.
interdisciplinary approaches and record keeping and many other things that you have mentioned in your talk. Zaira, so the question is from my side, and it's concerning the data that you have used. So you said that you have gathered data from your own 8-year-old child and 4-year-old child, which I think is really interesting, and that's one of the promising things of interdisciplinary research and case studies. When you decided to record them, was there a problem, from your supervisor? Or any ethical concerns as to you are choosing your own children as a sample of analysis? Because as researchers we are informed that that the research should not be personal. So I'm really intrigued, I must say, with this idea. But then again, how did you get that approval from the supervisor?
No, that's a very interesting question. Thank you so much, Ariba, for asking. Um, since I told you that this master's was applied linguistics, and we had this sort of freedom to use research in our own way. And this was a methodology already prescribed in our course outline. This was case study method, and of course, you can analyze your own children. I got this approval. There were a multiple a series of presentations which I had to go through, and there was no problem at all. Since my children were quite young at that age, and it was not that formal thing. Whatever they were speaking or whatever they were saying in natural settings, I used to record them. So, no, I did not have any sort of problem in organizing any kind of, organizing any data strategy. Or, I mean, I was rather appreciated by him that it is a unique research. The linguistic formation and the combination was very unique. It has never, I did not see a combination of English, Urdu, and German was being researched or research in this way, where you are actually taking identity into context, you are taking migration into context, and you are analyzing multilingualism in that scenario. So I got appreciation rather. Yeah, it was very fine.
And your work is indeed worth appreciating, I must say, because this is the first time, at least I am, hearing of this. And I believe that the idea is very unique. One other thing that I would like to add on, because I'm sitting in a Pakistani context, so I would like to ask questions according to our context and our research or our research ethics in Pakistan, particularly talking about interdisciplinary approaches. Uh, Now, when we are trying to inculcate interdisciplinary ideas within our degree, our students tend to focus more on their area of interest or their previous area of research. For instance, if my previous area of research is literature, I would focus more on the literary theories and the literary ideas rather than mixing and matching as it is in interdisciplinary approaches. So is there any way that we can balance out when we are doing an interdisciplinary research? Any tip from your side how we can balance out the different aspects that we use in interdisciplinary research without creating any hindrance from our previous frame of knowledge that we have?
Yes, what I would say, though it is not my experience, when I did my master's in literature and linguistics, practically I never thought of doing research because we did not have this opportunity of doing research in that free way. We have this sort of liberty, I would say, and luxury of doing research of what we thought to do in an environment when we were given this freedom and applied linguistics. And again, there were multiple genres of research when I was doing that. In your case, specifically in literary criticism or whatever subjects you are using in your research, you have to make sure that you research in secondary data, and then you may find a place over there. Because again, it's a whole cycle, it's a whole flow of research where you have to make sure that whatever question you have thought for your research, that should have that gap in previous studies. For that, you have to read about all the previous knowledge, and in literature there is a less room for research for myself. I would not go to touch literature if I would have to do any research, because in literature you would not touch any other thing and you make it in your own way. Only in applied linguistics it is possible, or in interdisciplinary fields, for example, if you are combining a socio with psychoanalysis, or with any other field, then you may have this opportunity to do this. But in old classics, for example, if you are doing research in drama, or if you are doing research in prose or in any other things, it will make a different dynamic. And again, that is more suitable to ask from your professor, whoever is more profound in this research. Otherwise, I don't believe in doing research for literary things. For me, it is little difficult. I would not touch that, because then you have to justify multiple things on your part, and you have to make multiple limitations in your own way. And I was able to do research because I was not I did not have that limitation thing. I was free to do research on my children. I did some courses, like in 2 3 years. We just worked on their audio video recordings. We just presented their code switching and their code mixing and all those things which were prevalent in those studies. But if I would have to ask to do research in drama, I would rather do it in another way. It's not. I'm not saying that it's not good to do, but there must be another way from professor of your own technical field.
Definitely. So we have a question from the audience as well.
Okay, my name is Jah Mohammad Hanif. I am the student of MPhil English Literature. So I want to ask the question regarding methodology, because recently we are doing our research proposal and we are asked to focus on the research methodology rather than the theory. So what qualitative methods were used to explore the children metalinguistic awareness and identity construction in the case study? What methodology basically you have used?
In case study, yes. Thank you very much. It's a very good question, I would say. In case study method, when I was doing this methodology, then there were some devices which I used to analyze their data, and I had to use all the preset rules which were available online, and then I tried to make sure that whatever occurrences or utterances they are making should make should be relevant to the field I'm doing. For example, if I was telling about metalinguistic awareness, then for metalinguistic awareness there was no tool required. For metalinguistic awareness, the knowledge was sufficient to justify the thing, because preset rules or preset knowledge or whatever theoretical framework I have provided here is was sufficient to establish a fact that yeah, children do have this sort of metalinguistic awareness when they are switching languages. Then in language case, you don't need multiple tools to evaluate their language proficiencies. The tool is to analyze their data in transcribed way. Of course, you do transcription, you do some technical terms, and you go through from a series of coding and other things, which I have already gone through while doing the research. But I did not do a very, it was not a very formal thing. It was more about linguistic thing. I tried to make sure that whatever data I have, that should amplify the process of metalinguistic awareness. Because if you read about metalinguistic awareness, or if you know about metalinguistic awareness, it's more about a general instinct. The answer is in language narratives. If you see language theories, or if you see post-structuralist theories of language and identity, you would come to know the theory of metalinguistic awareness. So it's an awareness, it's an instinctive thing which you just analyze by yourself and you evaluate it. Yes, I was saying that you don't need a you don't need a defined tool to explain it. other than transcriptions and analysis of coding and visualizing the data. For example, when you are doing any sort of recording thing, then you have to make sure that whatever you have recorded so far, that should be in a way of presentation, in a way where you justify all these things. So coding and transcriptions were basic tools to explain that code switching and code mixing.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Zaira. Are there any questions from the audience? Okay, with this, we conclude our session. Thank you so much, Zaira, for joining us today. Please give her a huge round of applause.